Hello, and welcome to Rotten Commentatoes, episode 5 and or 7. I'm not sure. Darren,
Yo,
my co-host. As
hello.
always, you're with me.
I'm here.
Get at her. Let's get at her.
Let's do it. So today we're going to be talking about The Witch, 2015 horror film, a New England folktale. So we
And
start off.
Boy, isn't it old style.
It's old style. I love the language that they use, the ye old language. So the movie opens up, huh?
I love that it's only an hour and a half long.
Keegan has some issues with this film.
I got some issues with the horror movie that is like a fucking history lesson, but that's besides the point.
You can't fault it for its historical detail, Keegan. All right, that's a douche move.
Hey, I'm just saying.
It's great.
That I hated it. That
Whoa.
I fucking hated it.
You like really hate it? You actually hate this movie?
No. Let's go,
movie.
man. Let's go. I got a coffee press, as I was saying earlier, and I'm just fucking amped up.
So you had like 6 coffees?
I'm raging against the machine today.
Oh shit. So the movie opens up with the protagonist family.
Oh, I fucking bet it does.
Father William is talking to a court about why he wants to leave the town. They're trying to kick him out, and he's basically like, well, screw you guys, I want to leave anyway because you're really shitty Christians.
Okay, pause. Darren.
What?
What's the scariest part of this movie?
The scariest part of this movie?
Yeah. Trick question, it's the dad's voice.
That's the dad's voice.
This guy has like...
Corruption is my father.
He has a fucking X-Men superpower of talking. It is messed up. It is terrifying.
It is a pretty terrifying voice, especially later in the film when he says some messed up shit. When he's talking about the tongue of the devil wagging in thy daughter's mouth.
Talking about French kissing the devil?
Kind of, I guess. I think it's, yeah. I guess you could interpret it that way.
I mean, I think he's probably like the devil's like running her mouth, but still, the devil's running her mouth.
Corruption is thy father's name.
So yeah, they get kicked out of the settlement because of a fucked up. Like, why exactly did they get kicked out? They have 2 different interpretations of the Bible or some shit.
Yeah, pretty much. William is hardcore Christian, and the town he lives in is only semi-hardcore Christian. So he basically calls them out on being bad Christians, and he doesn't want to live in the town anyway. So they're like, good, we don't want you here. Get the fuck out. So they get all their stuff packed up on their little rickety wagon, and they take off into the woods. They find their own little piece of land. And I like this creepy scene here when they found their piece of land and they're on their knees praying, and this orchestral creepy music
Cellos
chimes
and violins and shit are just climbing into this horrifying.
Yeah. Well, the camera slowly pans into the wood, the darkness of the woods.
It's definitely some not so subtle foreshadowing that shit's gonna get fucked up.
Yep. And at this point, Catherine, the mother, she's pregnant, and then it cuts forward. They've been living here for X amount of months. They've raised a couple buildings. They've got some crops growing, and she's given birth to the baby. So it's been probably, I don't know, 3-4 months. Are you playing again? Are you still paused?
What? I wasn't paused. It was like a joke pause.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm at 9 minutes in.
Okay, I'm also 9 minutes in. So yeah, we get this super creepy shit going on where Tomlinson, the oldest child, is playing with the baby. She's playing peekaboo. And one of the times she opens her eyes back up, the baby's gone. It's just vanished. And you see some trees moving around like something's running, but you can't see it. And then this is probably the most horrifying part of the film. I wouldn't say scary, but disturbing, yes.
Guys, I want to say it. I said in episode 3, that I wanted to see more child murders in movies. And it looks like I got my wish.
You got your wish. This is a baby that's maybe 2 months old. getting butchered by a witch. So I don't know if you know much about the mythology behind the film, but one of the big things that these anti-witch Christians were propagating back in the day was that witches would use the intestines of an unbaptized baby to make some sort of paste, and
An ointment.
an ointment, and they rub it on their bodies, and it's really gross. They masturbate with it, and that's what we see in this section. She rubs it on,
What?
yeah, she rubs it all over her body, and then she puts the broom between her legs, and she starts like rubbing the broom up and down
Jesus
really fast.
Christ!
Yeah.
This movie is so dark in it's dark, but it's also the way they shoot it is dark. I did not know she had a broom in her vagina.
Not in her vagina. It's more like external stimulation rather than internal stimulation.
Oh,
There's
okay.
no actual penetration.
Because I was gonna talk about like old lady titties, because there's some old lady titties in this movie.
There's some old lady titties.
Yeah, like the red woman from Game of Thrones when she turns into like the super old lady.
Yeah.
It's like that, and it's that old people in horror movies are disturbing. You remember in The Shining when Jack Nicholson gets into that fucking bathtub with the hot chick, and all of a sudden she's like 90 years old and she's got sores all over her and shit?
I was 11 or 12 when I watched that, and that fucked me right up. I didn't sleep right for a couple months after that one, for sure.
Yeah, that one put a curve in my wedding, for sure. Is that a
But-
saying? Put a curve in
Yeah,
my wedding?
I think so, maybe.
Okay. Well, it did.
It is
but yeah,
now.
the horror trope of the old person's skin, because nobody wants to see that shit.
And this is like unnaturally old, I think.
No, I think that's just how they look.
I don't know, you see those hands? She almost looks like a monster. She's
Okay,
probably
maybe the hands. Yeah,
she's reached an unnaturally long lifespan through black magic.
and through masturbating with brooms.
And through masturbating with brooms with mushed up baby intestines.
Now,
Unbaptized baby.
I will say, as much as we can talk about child murders, I'm really glad that they didn't show any, like, the baby is not a baby anymore when they show it again. Like, it's a paste. So
Yeah.
you don't have to see anything bad happen to a small baby.
No, we just see her creepy hands caressing the child, and then she brings the knife in over the belly, and then it cuts. So there's no actual violence scene.
Yeah. And
But
I
yeah,
think
that's
that-
how witches fly, folks. They masturbate with dead babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
And
messed
of course
up
you
shit.
wanted to do this movie. See, I'm trying to do a good movie podcast, some positive vibes. I'm talking
Positive.
about clowns that eat children. I'm
Clowns
talking
that eat
about
children.
androids finding
So
their
positive.
and then Darren's talking about old people masturbating with broomsticks. Ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case.
So I'm just gonna talk about. We've already passed over it, but there's probably one of the most important parts of the film is the daughter Tomlinson is praying. She's asking God for forgiveness because she's a sinner and she has bad thoughts. She wants to go back home to England. She's not happy with the direction her father has taken her family, and she feels bad for this. So she's praying to God about her impurities, and this is when she is marked by the devil. The devil sees an opportunity here, and so everything else we see in the film past that point is the devil's plan to take Tomlinson into his coven and make a witch out of her. So everything you see, the baby being taken, is just the first step in this elaborate plot that Satan has hatched to make Tomlinson a witch. Turn on God.
Yeah, Satan's doing some serious work. He's got to turn into rabbits, Black Phillip, an old lady. Well, I guess the old lady's just on his team.
Yeah. He also
This
turns
is-
into Captain Morgan.
Yeah, obviously. And she does have a little captain in there. Boom! End of the podcast!
Oh!
Yeah, so I remember reading about this movie because I was super excited for it to come out the pipe, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's super authentic, like the clothes that they wear, the language that they use.
Hmm.
It's straight out of history. It's really cool. But I find that the film is missing something. It's so bleak, and I think because the language that they use is so archaic that you don't feel as warm to the characters, especially because they're fucking god nuts, which is always hard to deal with.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, I think Tomlinson and Caleb, for me, are the characters that you can sort of sympathize with the most.
yeah,
Because
because
the
they're
mother, the mother
being
comes off
led.
as a crazy bitch. It's like after she loses her baby, she just turns into this like cold-hearted person, and the father is just so preachy and so gruff all the time. And the two little kids are just annoying little shits.
Yeah,
So for me, it's Tomlinson and Caleb are the characters I think that the audience can connect with the most.
and much like Cersei and Jaime Lannister, they have a little bit of attraction towards each other.
Well, yeah, and I think the first time I watched it, the first couple times I watched it, I was kind of weirded out by that. But if you really think about it, these kids are at
They
that
have
age where
nobody else to
yeah, they
look
have
at.
nobody else, and they're in that age where they got their hormones going. So they're definitely not taking it to the same lengths that Jamie and Cersei Lannister take it.
I mean, they're not bumping uglies or anything.
Yeah, they're not doing anything like that. But he definitely catches a glimpse of her cleavage now and then, and she
I,
definitely she notices it, and she doesn't really do much to stop it.
I
She
think
never,
it's just kid stuff taken a little bit far,
yeah,
but it's a strange film. Everything is kind of shitty.
it's definitely like you said, it's really bleak, and
Also,
the language is really interesting because I always every time I watch this movie, I pick up a new little tidbit on the language, like oh, that's what they're talking about in this scene. That's what they're talking about over here.
talking back to how the little kids are little shits.
Yeah.
I also find it fucked up that their testimony is put in any sort of regard at all. Like, she's a witch. And then the mom
Yes,
and dad are like, oh, fuck. The smart kid said it.
the smart kid said it, but you have to keep in mind what they've just experienced in that part. Like in that section of the film, their child, who's all pale and sickly looking and sweating, sits up and pukes up a rotten apple, like a bloody rotten apple. So that's clearly something unnatural is going on. And then to top it off, Tomlinson went out into the woods with Caleb and returned alone, and then she's the one that found him naked, all delirious in the yard. So as far as these parents are concerned, it probably wouldn't be too difficult to believe that, especially in this God fearing age where they think witches are real.
Yeah, but like that's the whole problem with the Salem witch trials, etc., is that anybody could get taken down by the testimony of anybody. So like,
Yeah.
I could say that you're a witch, even though I'm much more likely to be a witch than you, Darren. Let's be serious about it. And then you get taken out, and I find that so annoying. It's like today's, it's a reflection of how stupid people can be, and I find
Oh
it
yeah, definitely.
uncomfortable,
But I
especially.
do think if those kids had made the claim that Tomlinson is a witch before that, I don't think it would have been taken seriously. But because of all the things that they just experienced one after the other, I think something kind of clicks in their head and they think, oh, that actually makes sense. If she was a witch, she took him out to the woods, she bewitched him, she brings him back naked and sick.
Yeah, I guess so. I hate those kids though.
I hate
Fucking
those
hate them.
kids.
And they're in league with the devil, so
Yeah, they are the ones talking to Black Phillip, singing weird songs about him.
Black Phillip wants to screw my sister. So back to the plot of the movie. We get that nice little incestuous flirtation between the brother and the sister. Then we move on to like everything's going to shit on the farm.
Hmm.
The dad can't get anything to grow. He's pretty fucking useless at hunting. All that he's got is his faith in God, and I tell you what, that ain't paying the bills right now.
This definitely not. Yeah, their corn is suffering from a rot. It's a fungus called ergot, which is kind of plays a big part in how you interpret what's happening in the film because it actually causes delirium and hallucinations.
No way.
Yeah.
Which is why mom's gonna be doing that thing.
Yeah, doing that thing with her babies.
I wish I had opened the podcast with that again.
You should have.
Myself with that one.
You just cut it in. Just edit that shit in.
Just reopen the podcast now.
So earlier on in the movie, when William takes Caleb out to go hunting, and they have this, because they're very God-fearing folk, they have this extreme fear of the woods, of the dark and the unknown. They think that it's the devil's territory, the woods. It's this unknown dark place, and it's where the devil is. So they're not supposed to go into the woods.
I'm scared as fuck of the woods as well.
I wouldn't like to be out in those woods. Those are some creepy, dense woods.
I don't like being out in any woods, Darren. Old people could be running around naked there, and we all know what that leads to.
Yes, some horrific broomstick work. But the father tells Caleb that he bought the traps that they're going to check with money that he got by selling his mother's silver cup. So the mother has this silver chalice that her father gave her, and it holds a lot of sentimental value, and he's gone and sold it behind his wife's back because they need money because they're struggling so bad. And so this plays a big role in Catherine, the mother, losing trust in her daughter because she thinks she's done something with it. And the father fails to mention, oh no, he totally lets his daughter be the scapegoat because he's too scared to tell his wife.
Everybody is fucking over Thomason in this movie.
Yeah.
And that dad is once again so fucking useless except for his faith in God.
Well, yeah, he tries to kill that rabbit, which is actually
the witch.
Either the witch or the witch's familiar. Because witches have little creatures that go out and do their bidding.
Yeah, like you would be my familiar.
Oh, really? Oh, really, fool? Well, I'm gonna be an owl if I'm gonna be your familiar. Because owls are dope. That
voice that you're just doing would lend itself great to a cartoon owl.
Oh, really, fool? Oh.
Perfect.
Oh.
So, a rabbit's a pretty fucking useless familiar, just saying.
Yeah, but it's stealthy, right? It's stealthy.
Yeah, and it also apparently is immune to bullets and backfires guns.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? The woods thing, as well. When I watched this movie the first time, you don't really think about it in today's day and age. But the one thing that the authenticity of this movie does is that you can see how fucking terrifying it would have been to live in these times when you were surrounded forever with woods like these. As far left, right, up, down you can go. It's all hardly contained woods. There's no cities around you. There's fuck all. You're like the first guys to get there, and of course you gotta have this sense that maybe there is something out here that we haven't discovered because there's so much space where it could be.
Oh, definitely. And just right in the beginning of the movie, after they take off from their plantation town, they set up camp and they're in the middle of the woods with a fire, and it's just darkness surrounding them. And like that would be not a fun camping time. That would be freaky. You don't have a tent, you don't have a flashlight.
And you don't have those cool raviolis, like the dehydrated ones, if you run out of food.
Yeah, they could definitely do with some of that in this. Starvation is definitely a possibility for this family. It's not.
We just got to the part where Caleb is looking for his dog in the woods.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, Darren, I'm gonna skip ahead to the hot witch if you don't do this part. So you better.
Okay, I'll do a quick prelude to
hot witch, guys.
The hot witch. Get ready. So before Caleb and Thomason take off into the woods in the middle of the night, they overhear their parents talking, and because Catherine has already lost trust in Thomason, and she doesn't know exactly what happened to her baby, so she's mad at Thomason because Thomason lost the baby. She thinks she stole her silver cup, and now it's become apparent that she has some sort of line talking about Thomason's sign of womanhood. So I think that is a reference to a period. I think
Darren,
Thomason has gotten
Darren,
her period.
her woman
What?
times. Let's not be
Her
crude.
woman times. That's what she says. She says that she's a woman now. So
Darren,
that could only what?
her aunt Flo.
Her Aunt
Something.
Flo.
Let's not call it the P word.
Oh Jesus. So she wants to take Tomlinson to back to the town and find a family that she can be a servant for, so they can make money off of her because she's a shitty mom.
Yeah.
And Caleb and Tomlinson are still awake, so they overhear this. So Caleb has this idea of going out into the woods at night to check the traps and bring food back, so his sister doesn't have to go anywhere. Because we all know that Caleb does not want Tomlinson leaving, if you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. So they go
but
off.
to defend the mom in this situation. If I was stranded in the middle of nowhere for the rest of my life with my children, what I would want is a silver cup that I can't sell to anyone.
She's a piece of work, that Catherine.
I think
She's
there's like a
piece
seven.
of work.
I think there's a seven deadly sins motif somewhere in here. Like everybody's kind of fucking up in huge ways. Like the mom's greedy, the dad's prideful, the
Yeah.
daughter's I don't know, and the son's lustful, and the two kids are assholes.
That's
Sins of
the
being an
incident,
asshole.
being an asshole.
Hey man, I haven't studied that shit in quite some time. Also, there was a
So-
shooting on my on.
Oh yeah, I
the
heard
North
about
Shore here,
that.
like,
The
yesterday,
shooting
so
on the
there's
North
been-
Shore. I
there's
heard
been
about
sirens
that.
like every 4 hours since then.
That's brutal.
Yeah, somebody's
You have
going
to edit that shit out, Keegan.
No, we're leaving it in. The people need to know.
The
Avoid the
people
North
need to
Shore.
know. It's the voice of the people. They need to know.
Can quell the uprising. All right. So right, you were breaking it down.
So yeah, Caleb and Tomlinson go out into the woods, and everything's all hunky dory until they come across the creepy little rabbit again, and their dog Fowler runs off after the rabbit. The horse that Tomlinson is riding starts freaking out because it senses the evil of the witch. Caleb runs out off after the dog. The horse kicks Tomlinson off. She gets knocked out, and then Caleb just travels deeper and deeper into the woods until the woods are so thick that he's climbing over and under branches and bushes. And then he comes across this little creepy witch hut. So here's the hot witch. Keegan, take it away, man.
All right, guys.
Time to shine.
Hot witch time. So, I've always been a fan. There was this movie called Cutthroat Island with Gina Davis back in the 90s. And it was my first introduction to the bodice, or the I can't remember what they're called. You know, the thing where you pull the threads on either side and it kind of pushes up your boobs, so it like turns your whole boob into a half moon boob, but it's like twice as big, so it's like
Is it
you
like
got
a-
double boob for the price of one boob.
Bustier? Is that the word?
Yeah, bustier. I used to remember the word, but I can't now. Anyway, Gina Davis was wearing one. It was super hot. I was like 12 years old, and now when I see them, I'm just stoked. I love period pieces where you get to see a nice a bodice push-up bra, guys. And the witch is wearing one. She looks like Little Miss Riding Hood if it was an early porno. And all in all. All in all, very creepy to see an 8-year-old kissing a full-grown witch.
Yeah, they
because
must have
they
had
do-
They must have had to pay her a nice chunk of change for that one.
Yeah. So let me break it down for real, guys. There's a nice bodice, but there's a witch comes out. She's beautiful, but she also looks very nefarious. You know how hot ladies look nefarious when they want to. And she sidles up to Caleb and she gives him a little smooch. Then she pulls him in for a little French action, if you know what I'm talking about. And then the camera zooms in on her eye as she's like side angle kissing this little boy. Gross. And she kind of grabs the back of his head with her hand, but her hand is a big, gross old lady hand.
Ew.
Oh, nasty. Oh, jump scare. She's old.
Jump scare.
So, then it cuts to Thomason milking a goat, and the two annoying kids are talking to Black Phillip. And I think this is the first time you actually get to see them talking to Black Phillip. Like, they're straight up leaning down, grabbing the top of his ear, like whispering in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that shit ain't normal, guys.
Nope, these kids are off the plot for sure.
I used to talk to like a teddy bear or whatever when I was young, but I wasn't like lifting up a fucking real life animal's ear and communicating back and forth with it.
You're a liar.
Excuse me?
You said you're a liar.
That was one time.
It was one time. Why you gotta bring that up?
Alright, take it away. Take it
Take it
I've said
away.
enough.
You've said enough.
This movie brings out the worst in me.
This movie brings up
Talking
the
about
worst.
talking about times of the month and bodices,
So before that,
witches.
before the scene with the goat and the blood, Thompson goes outside and finds her brother walking around naked in the rain, and he's fumbling around. He can't really stand straight. There's something really wrong with him. So they bring him in, and he's pretty messed up. He's got a fever. He's sweating up a storm. He's pale as fuck.
AKA he's got gonorrhea, guys.
He's got gonorrhea. That witch. That dirty witch. That STI-ridden forest monger.
Forest monger?
I don't know. Yes.
Alright, you know what? You made a good attempt. Let's continue.
So her brother's all fucked up. They're worried about him. It's not looking good for Caleb. His prognosis does not seem good. And the father wants to go into town with the family and find a place for Thompson to live. So they're still looking to basically sell their daughter. And after a full day of Caleb suffering, he starts to almost have a seizure. His teeth clamp shut. They can't open his mouth. And he barfs up a rotten apple, which is clearly not natural. So they immediately start to suspect witchcraft. And after this happens, the kids blame Thomason. Because earlier in the movie, when the little girl's being irritating, like she's annoying her older sister, so Thomason says, "I'm the witch of the wood. My soul leaves my body in the night and dances naked with the devil, and I've signed his book." And so now the daughter narcs on Thompson, the younger daughter narcs on Thompson, and the parents believe these kids because of all this weird shit that's going on with their kid. And shortly after that, Caleb croaks. He kicks the bucket.
Now, we gotta go into just how he does it. He starts speaking about the witch, but he doesn't go out and say like the witch is making me do all this. Like he's moaning about how she's making him all twisted up and
she's like upon him, his bowels and his stomach.
Yeah, eating him up basically. And then the two little shit kids, those little arseholes, start seizuring on the ground as well.
And start repeating what he said.
Yeah, and they're blaming
blood.
Thomason.
Get out of my blood, I think is the line. Get out of my blood. Get out of my blood.
Yeah, because the kids are dickheads and they're joking around at this point. They still think everything's a game, and they're trying to get Thomason in trouble when they don't realize.
Well, I think they might really be scared of Thomason, and they might really think that she had something to do with it because of what she said.
Why are they faking the seizures then?
Because I think it's partly because they're kids and their imagination is running wild. But I think it's because they want their sister to be found out. I think they really believe that Thompson's a witch.
Guys, I'm gonna lay it out for you. you can't trust little kids. I think
Nope.
Darren's trying to talk it out. If these children have the worst intentions.
They are terrible. Or maybe they've been manipulated by Black Phillip.
Yeah, because they were talking to it.
Yeah.
Which they
So
shouldn't have been.
this all goes back
Darren,
into
4-year-olds
Thomason
have to
being
be
marked
held
by the
accountable.
devil. 4-year-olds have to be held accountable.
And then the kid goes into like this rush of ecstasy, and he starts talking about Jesus and yada yada yada. I'm gonna be in your arms soon. Yada 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 yada, and then dies.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that. Like, was that false salvation for him, or was that real?
I think that was real.
Think that he got saved by Jesus right at the
Yeah,
end.
I think that Jesus took him up to heaven.
Now, I will say, in this movie, Jesus and the devil are very real people.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, he's to quote that song, he's going up to the spirit in the sky.
Looked at my sister's tits and then I died.
So, and I mean that's cool for Caleb because he expressed some pretty intense fear earlier on in the movie about going to hell, you know, about his baby brother being in hell because he died unbaptized. So that's a win for Caleb, I think. At the end of the day, it's a win.
Yeah, I always wanted to die 8 years old of gonorrhea, resulting to me being raped by
Better than being alive in
40-year-old
this
witch.
fucking crazy ass family. This family is
I mean, imagine if this Middle Ages reality where there was witches and shit had continued to this present day, and we were just constantly in fear of talking to animals and turning into demons and shit.
it'd be horrible. Tomlinson's life sucks, and this is all deliberate. Everything that's happened to her is Lucifer has this plan for her. He turns her family against her, and then slowly kills them one by one. And we get this scene where after Caleb dies, the mother freaks out and tells Thomason to GTFO. So she runs off because she's emotionally distraught. William follows her out and is comforting her. And at this moment, you think, okay, he's being a good dad. He doesn't think she's a witch. He's giving her a hug, trying to comfort her. But then his intentions come out, and he's saying that it's okay. Like, you just have to admit it. You just have to admit that you're a witch and choose God. And there's going to be a council call tomorrow, so you have to be honest. He's completely bought into this idea. So this is when Tomlinson calls him out on his shit. You can't hunt. You can't grow crops. Mother wears the pants around here. And then she says that the kids are the ones who have been talking to the devil, and they made a coven with the devil through Black Phillip. And so now William isn't sure who to believe. I think he believes Tomlinson at first. And he drags her into the house and forces her to tell the mother about the children and Black Phillip. And Tomlinson's the one who's being rational about it. She says, I can't know for sure. And he's like, tell them! And he's ready to, like, kill his kids.
Lower though.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them.
Yeah. He picks up his son and is, like, talking about dashing his skull and I'll kill him as Abraham would his seed.
But, I mean, realistically, he's had 2 children get murked already.
Yeah.
And now he's only got 3 left, and both of them are doing some real shady devil stuff.
Yeah.
So I think I'd be losing it too. I think
Yeah,
I'd make
and don't
my own
forget
deal
the
with the devil
ergot.
at that point. I'd be like, look, I will kill these 3 kids if you just fuck off. I'm done. I'm tired.
And then there's also the matter of the ergot poisoning. So if these people are eating ergot, whether or not this supernatural stuff is really happening, it's making them really paranoid. It's making them a lot more susceptible to being bought into all this fear. And so he locks his children up in a barn overnight.
As you would.
Father of the year. And they'll figure it out in the morning. What are you clicking at? I hear your clicks.
Oh, I was just getting to the the part a little bit ahead. I want to see some more stuff. Ooh.
So yeah, the kids are locked in the barn overnight, and then this is probably one of the freakier parts of the movie.
Yeah, well, except this movie isn't freaky at all, Darren.
Okay,
It's
well,
just a
I
big
would say
gluttonous
it's foreboding.
mound.
It builds this sense of paranoia, the sense of fear, dread. So I think it does a
Are
really
you talking about
good
the raven
job.
with the titty?
I'm talking about everything. It just builds this dark, dreadful, foreboding atmosphere.
It's hopeless.
And then
It's hopeless.
This paranoia, this thread of paranoia just slowly builds and builds until it reaches its climax, which is
Let's talk
right
about
around
it.
this
Let's
point in
talk
the
about
film.
it. It comes to nighttime. The kids are locked in the barn with Black Phillip, which is a super stupid idea. Don't
Yeah.
lock it in with Satan itself.
Exactly.
And then the mom is upstairs, and they bury the son. They bury the son, and the mom's super angry about it. And then they go upstairs, and Dad goes to sleep, and Mom wakes up in the middle of the night and sees her now deceased son and baby sitting by the fire.
There's something I picked up this last time I watched it. I hadn't picked it up before. She gets out of bed, and before we see Caleb and Sam, we see her silver cup on a table. So we before we see the kids, we see the silver cup, so we already know that we're seeing things that aren't there. We see her silver chalice is back, and then the camera whips around. And
She's super excited to see them. And then we also cut down to in with Black Phillip, and the kids are waking up out of their sleep too, and they're getting really creeped out. And I like the way they did this. You jump back up to the mom, and the mom is breastfeeding her child, but when you jump back up from the other scene with the kids in the side barn there, she's actually breastfeeding a fucking raven. So a raven is just like eviscerating her nipple.
yeah, just eating her nipple. And at the same time, the witch is in this barn with the kids, drinking blood from the goat, from the white goat.
Yeah. So they wake up, and there's this horrific old lady drinking blood out of the goats.
Yeah, I love this part because we get the classic witch cackle. The witch turns around and is just like,
Yeah,
she's got blood all over her mouth.
I kept backing up because I wanted to see her face real well. Because it's too light in my room. I want to see how scary she is. Scale of 1 to 10. She's not. I want her to be hairier or something, or to have
Here,
just an old lady sucking blood.
I really like what they do with the camera work with Catherine, because we see the camera sort of floats around in this like ghostly fashion when she's seeing her kids, and then when it cuts back to her cackling like a mad woman, having her nipple gnawed on by a crow, the camera's just completely still.
It's like the ethereal daydream and then the reality.
Yeah, and then the reality of just like, no, this is what's happening.
So
And
Daddy
it's
wakes
really,
up in the
it
morning.
hits you out of nowhere, and you're just sitting there like, holy shit, this is fucked. Things are really, really messed up.
Yeah, and you expect this is when it got good for a minute to me. I was excited. I was excited about where this movie was going. Because you just sat through the broodiest an hour and 15 minutes of your fucking life, guys. Like, broodier than True Detective. Broodier than The
I would
Shining.
not say broodier than True Detective.
True Detective's
Definitely
wicked.
not.
You shut your mouth. Alexander
Hey, I don't have a problem with
Alexander
broodiness.
Daddario?
I do not have a problem with broodiness and a slow burn, building an atmosphere.
I can smell the sacosphere. I love Matthew McConaughey's delivery.
Oh, True Detective is amazing.
Okay.
It is amazing.
Now back to this.
Back to Woody Harrelson.
This-
Oh wait, no.
Far less enthusing film. I don't know if that's a word even. See this.
You know what?
This movie
You-
is such a letdown. I'm making up
Stop making
fucking
jabs.
words.
You stop making jabs at this brilliant film.
No, you
So
can't
good.
make me.
It's so good. You stop that.
So we wake up. The dad gets out of bed. He's like, "Holy shit, what is going on?" Leaves his house, and there's fucking the boarded up doors to the little barn that they were locked in are like blasted open. There's dead goat parts all over the place, and he's like, "What madness is this?" or whatever, but in his super low creepy voice. And then he like goes like, and he starts to fall over because out of frame, Black Phillip has run up and gored him in the stomach.
Yeah, Black Phillip's fucking shit up.
Yeah, and then Black Phillip starts jumping around and shit, and you're like, oh fuck, the kids actually were talking to a fucked up devil thing. And then Dad gets like pushed into the woodpile by Black Phillip and he dies.
Yeah, and right before that, he's like eyes are almost rolling back in his head, and he says, "Some corruption is thy father." Some one last moment of being a God-fearing Puritan crazy man.
Yeah, for all the good it did him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the devil, like, being a Christian doesn't really save you from much in this movie.
No, and especially when the devil
Himself.
has this big intricate plot to turn Tomlinson against God.
Yeah, it seems kind of unfair. I feel like Jesus needed to come down with like a flaming sword or something and be like,
yeah, where the fuck are you, Jesus?
if there was a scene where Jesus Christ had a flaming longsword and fought a goat, I'm in. I was so down.
No. It would have been terrible.
That would have
been a horrible choice.
That would have been South Park level satire at its greatest.
So the mom comes out and sees Tomlinson there with the dead goats, and her husband is now dead. So it's not looking good for Tomlinson, because what is she going to do? Blame it on the goat? No, the goat did it, Mom. It's looking pretty grim for Tomlinson.
Oh, what's Mom going to do? Ground her?
Well, the mom just, eviscerates her with nasty words. And they get into a little tussle, and she's striking Tomlinson repeatedly, slapping her, punching her, whatever. Tomlinson reaches for a knife and gives her a little slash in the face. And I really love this shot of Tomlinson's mom over top of her and all the blood dripping off of her face onto Tomlinson's face.
Yeah, it's pretty
really
good.
creepy.
Yeah, it's really creepy. Like a little mustache with blood.
Yeah. So the mom starts to strangle Tomlinson. She's straight up trying to kill her daughter at this point. So Tomlinson just starts hacking at her fucking head with this knife until the mom just falls limp and dead on top of her. And at this point, the devil's plan has worked. Tomlinson's whole family turned against her. Everyone's dead. So if you're in Tomlinson's shoes, you're thinking about like, what the fuck, God? Where the fuck were you, man? Where's Jesus? You've forsaken my whole family. So you know what? I'm going to go with this guy because he's actually doing stuff. And this is probably my favorite part of the movie. When she's talking to Black Phillip and like the way they did his voice. What dost thou wish? Do you like the taste of butter? Like, do you want to live deliciously? It's awesome.
Dost thou have any cheese?
You wouldn't happen to have a slice of cheese on you, would you, Tomlinson? I'd love some cheese on toast, Tomlinson. As long as it's not made of goat milk.
So the end of this movie is that Black Phillip was legit the devil.
/ Captain Morgan.
/ Captain... Yeah, and he turns into Captain fucking Morgan, and he asks her if she wants to see the world and hang out and shit. She's like, yeah, and then he's like, well, then you gotta sign my little paper, because I guess witches are like the devil's secretaries.
Yeah.
And
you've got to keep my books now, Tomlinson.
Yeah, and then they... And then she walks out with Black Phillip, and she's all naked and stuff, and she walks to this fire, and there's like 7 witches all muff out, just dancing around, screaming and being
muff
super
out.
Annoying. And then they all start to fly, and then Thomason is like laughing and shit, and she...
Yeah, and crying, and then she's got tears coming down her face.
She floats up into the air, and the movie, thank the fucking Lord, finally ends. Holy shit.
This movie is great. I don't understand Like, what did you want? Some cheesy teen horror with jump scares? This is a real
I wanted a
fucking
payoff.
movie.
It's not a horror movie.
How is that not a payoff? She turns into a fucking witch. Her whole
That's not
her whole family's
horrific.
dead.
It's not
She
horrific.
says, "Screw this god, dude."
It's just it's a
Okay,
fucking
a
fairy
baby
tale.
being killed and turned into a lotion is pretty horrific.
Yeah,
A
they
crow
set up
gnawing
the
on a
whole
nipple.
movie.
A crow gnawing on a nipple that this woman is hallucinating is her dead baby. That's pretty horrific.
There's no fucking payoff at the end of this movie. You watch it and you
I
watch it and you
disagree.
watch it and there's no payoff.
I disagree. The payoff is awesome. The last couple shots of the witches floating up around the fire with the black goat is a huge shout out to the witches painting by Goya. You should look up that painting right now. Do a little quick Google.
This is a movie podcast. I don't look up paintings.
Goya witches.
Darren, I'm not saying that the people that made this movie were stupid. I'm saying that their end product was lacking in some substance.
How is it lacking substance?
Because
You
they
could argue
string
that
you
it's
along
lacking
through this
fear.
tense narrative, and then all it is everybody dies. Like, the stakes do not align with how you're supposed to feel at the end of this movie.
I disagree. It builds this perfect atmosphere. And the ending is the devil wins. The antagonist of the horror film wins. And there's not enough horror movies that have that. Too many horror movies.
Every slasher. The bag.
No. Yeah, because he might still be alive, but the protagonist doesn't lose. Like, Tomlinson loses her family. She gets tricked into turning towards the devil's side. The antagonist completely wins over everything in this film. And that is, I think, more horror movies need to take that approach. Too many horror movies, the protagonist survives and the antagonist is defeated in some way. Maybe we get that last shot of their eyes opening because they want a sequel. But just too many horror films have a happy ending. Like The Shining. Can you imagine if and I'm not talking shit about The Shining because it's a brilliant film. Could you imagine if Jack Torrance straight up just butchered his family in the end of the movie? You know? That's horrifying.
Yeah, but it's equally horrifying his attempt.
Yeah.
This movie.
That was a poor example because Shining's so perfect.
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, bud.
It's just the first horror movie that popped into my head.
I think because we were talking about it a little bit earlier, but I just have a problem with the characterization and the character building in this film. I just don't feel emotionally attached to anyone in this movie, and that for me is, it's like you're watching a morality tale or something because they took it out of old folklore to make a fairy tale. I just stopped giving a fuck. It was like, oh, the devil wins. This is not exciting. Everything is at a glacial pace. He was gonna win from the start. There was no turning for Thomason. She got fucked over. Everything that happens to her, she doesn't really have a choice in. That's where I didn't like it. She doesn't make a final choice to like turn into a bad guy. Her final choice to turn into a bad guy is that her mom's trying to kill her. So
for me, this is one of those conspiracy horror films, like Rosemary's Baby, where we have this central protagonist character and everything else in the film is going against her. And her odds are extremely low. She has no hope. Just like Rosemary's Baby. No matter what she does, there's so many forces behind the curtain acting against her that she has no way out of the situation. And that's what makes the movie, that's where the horror, I think, comes from. Is it I would debatably the only, I mean, I think Caleb is also another character that you can be emotionally attached to and root for. But at the end of the day, this is Tomlinson's story. And this is how this young girl who hasn't really ever done anything wrong has been made to feel, because of her religion, that she's bad and inherently evil. And that sets her up for failure because the devil sees this weakness in her that she can be turned to his side. And so everything else we see in this movie is all these forces acting against Thomasin, turning her family against her, slowly killing her family off until she has nowhere else to go, nothing else to turn to except the devil. And that's pretty horrifying. That's pretty terrible.
It is horrifying. This movie's polarizing. A lot of people said it was awesome. A lot of people said it was garbage. I can appreciate elements of this film, but I feel that the way it came together is not satisfying for the type of movie watcher that I am. And I appreciate slow movies. I liked The Assassination of Jesse James. I liked The Shining. I liked Arrival. Things where you got to really concentrate and pay attention to what's going on, or else you get lost.
True Detective. Not that that's a movie, but that's definitely like very slow paced.
This one just like I said before, it just didn't have the emotional weight that I was expecting from a story that slows itself down this much, and I think that was a poor decision in the dialogue used, and I just think that there needed to be a little bit more likability in the characters they didn't have time for because it was a fairy tale.
But I think that's a choice because I think he wanted us to be put in Thomasin's shoes, to feel like her family had turned against her, and I don't think that would have been as effective if he had made us like the other characters as much.
What I'm saying is that it was so austere, and so ready to portray everything as the grimy Middle Ages that it was, is that they missed out on actually bothering to make Thomasin a three-dimensional character other than being put upon throughout the whole film. Like, you're like, this girl's having a shitty time, but I know literally nothing about this character other than that she's supposedly like this great person that's being fucked over and being accused of being a witch. It's just not enough. Not enough, guys.
Not enough?
I can't say it. Can't say it any more clearly.
Love this movie.
10 out of 10. Kids getting killed. Hot witches.
Hot witches. Gotta have hot witches.
Serving broomstick masturbation. Flying naked furry witches. A goat kills a guy. But all in all, I would rather watch all that in 20 minutes than an hour and a half. Now that's a fucking movie.
It's not a movie. It's an episode of network television. 20 minutes long.
Oh, I got Darren's artsy fartsy dander up for sure.
I just love this movie. When I bought it, I watched it 4 times in 1 week. I was obsessed with it.
I remember you talking about it, and it's just the type of people that we are. Like, I think we appreciate a lot of the same movies, obviously because we do this fucking podcast together. But
yeah, for sure.
This one's gonna come down to a difference of opinion, and I'm sure that there will be ones that I enjoy that you're gonna think are total garbage. Like when we watch Gilmore Girls season 8 as a movie.
We're not doing that.
Yeah, we are.
For all you listeners, we're not doing that. That's not a thing. It's not gonna happen.
100% is.
I think one of the big reasons that this movie ended up being so divisive was the marketing. I think they marketed the movie as something that it wasn't, and I think we see a lot of that now because they're just like, oh, let's just get people in the theaters. We got to get people in the theaters. I think the trailers sold this film as something that it wasn't.
Because there is no genre for this.
Yeah, it is. It's a period piece horror film.
Fuck.
It's a horror film. It's not a slasher film.
A period piece horror film? What fucking genre does that belong in? How many,
it's a horror
how many
film.
period piece historical accurate horror dramas are there exactly?
Not enough.
This is a big.
Not enough, I say.
Swing. This is a big fucking swing, and I think it made its money back. But they're gonna have to take a look at the way that they decided to do it.
Robert Eggers, the director of the film, is going to be doing a Nosferatu film next. So I'm pretty stoked for that.
Now he's gonna fucking ruin vampires? I'm actually mad now. I'm mad.
He's doing
I
Nosferatu.
swear to God, if he doesn't do it in like the
Great.
1930s, I'm gonna be fucking angry.
If he what?
He's got to do it in like the 1930s. I do not want him to go back to the Middle Ages again. Get it together, Eggers. Also, Eggers. That's like the most insulting nickname for like a childhood bully or something.
Hey, Eggers.
Eggers, you're a douchebag.
Nobody likes you, Eggers. You piece
Hey,
of shit.
Eggers, get out of here. Fucking
Get out of
fucking
here.
loser.
The fuck out of here. Hey, fuck out of here.
All right, Darren. Final prognosis.
Movie is badass shit. It's so good. 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Whatever scale you're using. Full points.
Do you have this in your DVD collection?
I do. I got the steelbook, bitch.
All right, now I get to go.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna take this down for you. Now, what you need to remember is that life is finite, and I like to say that I live life one day at a time. And if today was my last day, and I only had 24 hours, and I was going to be forced to spend an hour and a half watching this movie of my last 24 hours, I think that I would forfeit all 24 and just slit my fucking throat. Goodbye. See you next week.
Oh,
We're gonna watch Arrival. Peace.